If you believe in miracles that change everything, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon, because what you're about to hear will restore your faith in divine interventions when we least expect them. This is the true story of how one moment of unexpected compassion between a billionaire and a homeless teenager became a miracle that transformed an entire city. What started as a chance encounter on a cold December morning became proof that God uses the most broken situations to reveal his greatest plans. Victoria Chen had everything money could buy, but nothing her heart truly needed. At 45, she was the CEO of Chen Technologies, worth $3.2 billion, living in a Manhattan penthouse that overlooked Central Park. Her company dominated the tech world. Her name appeared on Forbes lists, and world leaders sought her advice. But behind the designer suits and boardroom victories, Victoria was drowning in a sea of emptiness that no amount of success could fill. Her marriage had crumbled 5 years earlier when her husband discovered her affair with a business partner. The divorce was brutal, splashed across tabloids, costing her $400 million and, more devastatingly, custody of her only son, David. At 16, David had chosen to live with his father in California, and their relationship had become nothing more than awkward phone calls and expensive gifts that couldn't bridge the chasm of broken trust. Victoria threw herself deeper into work, acquiring companies, expanding globally, but each achievement felt hollow. She attended charity galas where she wrote million-dollar checks, but her heart remained as cold as the December wind whipping through New York streets. That morning, December 15th, 2023, Victoria was running late for the most important board meeting of the year. Her driver was stuck in traffic, so she decided to walk the 8 blocks to her office. As she hurried down Fifth Avenue, her phone buzzed with urgent emails, her mind racing through merger details and profit projections. Then she saw something that made her stop dead in her tracks. Under the scaffolding of a construction site, barely visible from the busy street, sat a girl who couldn't have been older than 17. She was holding a small boy, maybe 5 years old, teaching him to read from a tattered children's book. Both were clearly homeless, their clothes dirty and worn, their faces showing the harsh reality of life on the streets. But what froze Victoria wasn't their poverty. It was what the girl was saying to the little boy. "Remember, Tommy," the girl said softly, pointing to the words in the book. "Every letter has a purpose, just like every person has a purpose. God doesn't make mistakes, even when everything feels broken." The little boy, Victoria realized he must be the girl's younger brother, looked up with eyes that sparkled despite his circumstances. "But Sarah, why did Mommy have to go to heaven? Did we do something wrong?" Victoria's breath caught in her throat. She found herself moving closer, hidden behind a parked car, unable to look away. Sarah, the teenage girl, pulled her brother closer and opened to a page with a picture of stars. "You know what I learned yesterday? I was crying because we didn't have dinner, and I asked God why he didn't love us. Then this old man appeared. I swear I'd never seen him before, and he sat right here with us." "What did he say?" Tommy asked, his small voice filled with wonder. "He told me something I'll never forget. He said, 'Child, the darkest nights reveal the brightest stars. Your hunger today is preparing you for the feast tomorrow. Keep teaching that boy to read. Those words will change more lives than you can imagine." Victoria's hands trembled as she listened. She watched Sarah pull out a small notebook from her backpack, pages and pages of handwritten lessons, math problems, spelling words. This homeless teenager was homeschooling her little brother with nothing but determination and love. "Sarah," Tommy said, "I'm really hungry." "I know, baby, but remember what the old man said? He promised that someone special was coming to help us today. He said she would have a heart like ice that needed to melt." Victoria gasped. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might stop. As if sensing her presence, Sarah suddenly looked up and made direct eye contact with Victoria. For a moment that felt like eternity, the homeless teenager and the billionaire stared at each other. Then Sarah smiled, not with judgment or expectation, but with a peace that Victoria hadn't seen in anyone's eyes for years. "Are you the lady with the frozen heart?" Sarah asked simply. Victoria's world shattered. If this story is touching your heart, please share it with someone who needs to believe in miracles today. And don't forget to subscribe, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Victoria stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. How do you know that? She whispered. Sarah stood up, still holding Tommy's hand. The old man told me. He said a lady in expensive clothes would walk by today, and her heart would be so frozen from pain that she'd forgotten how to love. He said you lost your son because of choices you made. Victoria staggered backward. No one knew about David except her lawyers and family. How could this homeless girl possibly know? He also said, Sarah continued gently, that you've been praying every night for God to give you a second chance to be the mother you should have been. Victoria collapsed against the wall. It was true. Every night for 5 years, she'd prayed those exact words through tears, begging God for another opportunity to love unconditionally. Who was this old man? Victoria managed to ask. Sarah looked puzzled. I don't know. After he finished talking to us yesterday, I turned to thank him, but he was gone, completely vanished. Tommy didn't even see him leave. Tommy nodded eagerly. He just disappeared, like an angel. Victoria's mind raced. This was impossible, but deep in her heart, she knew she was experiencing something supernatural, something her billions couldn't buy or her logic couldn't explain. What else did he tell you? Victoria asked, her voice barely audible. Sarah opened her notebook to the last page. In handwriting that clearly wasn't hers, elegant flowing script, were written the words, Victoria Chen, your fortune was never meant for you alone. The children you help today will become the leaders who change tomorrow. Your son will call you when you choose love over fear. Victoria's phone suddenly rang. The caller ID made her heart stop. David, son. With shaking hands, Victoria answered. David, Mom. Her son's voice was different, softer, more mature. I know this is weird, but I had the strangest dream last night. You were helping some kids and you looked happy, really happy. For the first time in years, I woke up feeling like I needed to call you. Victoria looked at Sarah and Tommy, who were watching with knowing smiles. David, Victoria whispered, I think God is trying to tell us something. 3 hours later, Victoria had cancelled all her meetings. She sat in her office with Sarah and Tommy, learning their story. Their mother had died of cancer 6 months ago, leaving Sarah to care for her brother alone. They'd been living on the streets, but Sarah refused to let Tommy miss his education. I promised Mama I'd make sure Tommy could read, Sarah explained. Education is the only way out of poverty. Victoria stared at this remarkable teenager who had more wisdom and strength than most adults she knew in corporate boardrooms. Sarah, Victoria said slowly, what if I told you I wanted to help not just you and Tommy, but every homeless child in this city learn to read? Sarah's eyes widened. You'd do that? The old man was right, Victoria said, feeling her frozen heart finally beginning to thaw. My fortune was never meant just for me. 6 months later, the Sarah's Stars Learning Centers had opened in 15 locations across New York City. Victoria had invested $50 million of her personal fortune to create safe spaces where homeless children could receive education, meals, and hope. But the real miracle wasn't the money. It was the transformation in Victoria herself. She spent 3 days a week at the centers, not as a CEO, but as a volunteer teacher. She read to children, helped with homework, and learned their stories. Each child she met melted another piece of her frozen heart. David had moved back to New York to help run the program. Mother and son worked side by side, their relationship healed through serving others. Sarah, now 18, had become the program director. She'd passed her GED with honors and received a full scholarship to Columbia University. Tommy, thriving in school, had become the unofficial mascot of the centers. 1 year after their first meeting, Victoria and Sarah returned to the spot where it all began. They brought flowers, a memorial for the mysterious old man who had changed everything. I still wonder who he was, Victoria said, placing the flowers on the ground. Sarah smiled and pulled out a newspaper clipping. I think I know. The article was from December 14th, 2023, one day before their encounter. It was an obituary for Father Michael Rodriguez, age 78, who had spent 50 years working with homeless children in New York. The photograph showed a kind-faced elderly man with gentle eyes. "He died the day before he spoke to us," Sarah whispered. "Natural causes, in his sleep. But look at this." She pointed to the last line of the obituary. Father Michael's final words were reportedly, "The darkest nights reveal the brightest stars. Tomorrow, someone special will need to remember that." Victoria's hands trembled as she read the words, identical to what the mysterious man had told Sarah. "Do you think?" Victoria began. "I think," Sarah said softly, "angels come in many forms, and sometimes God uses the impossible to make the miraculous possible." As they stood in the December wind, Victoria realized that losing everything had been necessary to find what truly mattered. Her frozen heart had melted completely, replaced by a love that now touched thousands of lives. The Sarah's Stars program had expanded to 12 cities, helping over 3,000 homeless children. Victoria's relationship with David was stronger than ever, and Sarah was about to graduate as valedictorian, planning to become a social worker. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. If this story moved your heart, please share it with everyone you know. Sometimes we're just one act of compassion away from a miracle that changes everything. Subscribe for more true stories that prove God's love never fails. And remember, your darkest night might be preparing you for your brightest dawn.